Lord Woolmer, the House of Lords EU Committee have today produced a report on the financial regulation of the European Union. Do you think the EU's regulatory responses, the initial responses to the financial crisis, were necessary, and do you think they were useful?
Well, I think all the G20, the major countries of the world, agreed it was necessary to review regulation and supervision of financial institutions. So I think the European Union's response has been proportionate. 2 or 3 of the proposals they've made have actually been put into legislation, improving guarantees on deposits, improving the capital requirements of banks, and improving the operation of credit rating agencies. The 4th proposal that they made recently, we're much less happy with. This is on the regulation of alternative investment funds. This is rushed. It's not timely in my view, and it's something to which I would return later in this discussion.
One proposal has been for an EU-wide macro potential supervisory body. Is that something the committee feel there is a need for?
Yes, we agree that it would be helpful to have a body that is independent and looks carefully at systemic risks in the financial system and the threats it might pose to the way in which the European economy works. The issue, of course, is how to have an independent body that has some teeth, and there's an awful long way to go yet before the powers and composition of that body is finally agreed in Europe. The important thing at the moment is for the British government to make clear its own thinking, because its own thinking differs somewhat from the European Commission.
There are also proposals for reform of micro potential bodies across Europe. Do you think the EU are on the right track in their proposals in this respect?
Well, there are 2 phases to their proposals. The first proposal is essentially to establish colleges of supervisors for main cross-border banks and institutions. That, in our view, is a good thing. That should help supervise banks that cross over different borders, for example. But there's a second stage of proposals which would involve greatly strengthening European-wide supervision. And here we think there's some big hurdles to overcome. The treaty does not give any significant powers to the European Union on supervision of financial institutions. This lies overwhelmingly with individual member states. And secondly, if banks, for example, get into trouble, it's the taxpayers of individual countries that have to bail them out. And it's difficult to see taxpayers, for example, in the UK, being willing to be told that they've got to use taxpayers' money by a European-wide body.
You mentioned earlier the committee had some concerns over hedge funds and some of the alternative investment products. Could you just tell us a bit more about the committee's concerns in that respect?
First of all, the European Commission has its own principles for better regulation that should involve very careful consideration of possible proposals. And on the proposals on alternative investment funds, this has not taken place. The proposals were rushed out fairly shortly before the European elections and in the twilight days of the European Commission. So we're concerned about the process of the following, and secondly, the actual proposals themselves, while having some elements that are to be welcomed, have other elements that do not fit in with the operation of hedge funds and similar bodies in a global marketplace. And the London and the UK operates firmly in a global marketplace.
Thank you. And just finally, what do you think the implications might be of some of the proposed changes, particularly for the UK economy?
Well, financial services are a strategic industry for the United Kingdom. In this country, financial services are enormously important. Therefore, what Europe proposes by way of regulation and supervision of financial institutions and financial services is very important for us. They have to be focused very much on the global environment in which these operate, and it's up to the United Kingdom government to ensure that proposals to regulate, proposals to supervise the financial services of the United Kingdom and London are done in a way that fits into this strategic role and importance of financial services in London for the United Kingdom economy.